Hey, in this video, I'll show you how to sync 3D and UI in Peachwell's Builder. Let's dive in. Okay, first let's add animation to our 3D scene. So first off, let's delete this plane. Let's add a cube and let's change the color of the environment and let's add HDRI. 3D scene is set. So now let's go to Animate tab and let's set the camera position. First, before you do that, please turn off the auto keyframe. Otherwise, when you move something in Animate tab, you'll just add keyframes. So let's turn it off. And let's change the camera rotation to 0. And let's move it down a bit. You can follow your work or the positioning of your items. In camera view on the left side, you can move this. If this is not open for you, you can go ahead and turn it on the top right section. So this is how it works. Now let's change the color of this cube to dark gray, or let's make it gray. There we go. Now let's play around with the HDRI so we can see the lines or the corners better. This should be enough. Yeah, this should be enough. Perfect. Now let's turn on the auto keyframe, but first, let's say you have 1000 dVH height in UI, so you have components inside. What this percentage will do is when you set the keyframes to 50%, and when you scroll down to 50% of your UI, you'll see the animations. So it's all about the percentage of your UI. But let's go with the DVH. So DVH allows you to sync your website better in terms of the height. So DVH can be used in UI section, but if you know the height of the project. So currently we will use 3D UI. So we will add scroll animations like fixed or sticky. So let's go with the DVH. Let's zoom in 100%. There we go. So let's start by adding a keyframe for the cube and let's move this up. You can follow it on the left side. Now let's go to 200 dVH and let's center this back again. So when we scroll down, we will see the cube. Let's go to 400 and let's move this cube a bit further. So this should be enough. And for the 600, let's take it back. But in the meantime, let's rotate it. So let's go with this camera view and this should be enough. Actually, let's make it this way. Perfect. So if we scroll down, cube will come down and then go further and then come back while rotating. Now let's go to UI tab. Here, let's add a cube and let's make this one parent cube or the parent block. And let's set the height for 600 dVH since the animate tab is set to 600. Now let's add block inside and one more block. So let's move this inside this block and let's move it inside the parent block. And let's call this duration 1 and let's call this text wrapper. There we go. And let's add a text inside. Perfect. Now let's set the height for the duration 1 to 200 dVH since that was our first animation. And let's set the text wrapper positioning to fixed and let's make it 45 dVH from top. And let's change the minimum height to 5 dVH. There we go. Now let's change the text color and let's center the text. Let's make this y-axis position. And let's change the size to 48. And let's change the color to red. There we go. Now let's add scroll section to duration 1 block. And let's call it duration 1. And let's go back to text wrapper and let's add effects. So scroll animation, section and view. For the section, let's choose the duration 1. Viewport, let's set it to top. For the preset, let's make it fade in. And since this is our first text in the website, let's set the enter animation to opacity 100. So when we load in, we'll be able to see the text. So let's go ahead and add one more duration, and we can basically copy paste this. And let's call it duration 2. And let me move this a bit further. And let's change the text to z-axis position. And let's change the color to blue this time. Now all we have to do is change the duration name to duration 2. And then change the text wrapper animation section to duration 2. There we go. But since this is our middle animation, or the middle text, we can set the enter opacity to 0%. Now we are set with the duration 2 as well. Now let's make duration 3. Let's call this z-axis, position, and rotation. And let's change the color to something purple. This should work. Now let's change the duration name. There we go. Now let's go ahead and change the animation as well. Duration 3, and this time let's set the exit to 100% since this is our last element. You can check out the video for scroll animations in our channel as well. And let's go ahead and check it out. So this is our y-axis position text. We scroll down, here's our cube, and it goes further. It moves in z-axis, and then it comes back and rotate. So it works perfectly fine. Now let's add another block inside, and let's make this one 150 dBH, and let's make it solid color. And let's go ahead and check it out. So this is our y-axis position, z-axis, x-axis position and rotation. While it comes back, we can see our 2D UI. So as you might have noticed, this text is still visible. And let's go ahead and remove it. To do that, let's go back to effects, scroll, exit, and set the opacity to 0. And let's go back and check it out. So y-axis, z-axis, z-axis rotation. And there we go. You can fill this section with 2D UI. So here's our synced 3D animation in Peach Rolls.